Oh, hi folks, good evening. Hope you're well. News on the street. My mother sadly passed away last night, with dignity. Not dignitas, but with dignity. And, well, there we are. You know how cathartic I need to talk, but not about that. So here I am. Try not to break the routine. There's not a lot I can do now, except make funeral arrangements. But sometimes, if I had access to dignitas, I would have willingly taken my mother, had it been, well, it was her wish when she had her marbles, to go with dignity, and I would have taken her to Switzerland. But alas, me and my brothers put her in an extremely nice care home, which I must write a letter to them to say how wonderful they treated my mother and coped with her. She was no trouble at all, quite frankly, from a nursing point of view anyway. It's just a matter of care, isn't it? So there we are. So, but it got me thinking of the whole process of the shenanigans about dealing with death. I know it sounds morbid, but one must talk about it, mustn't one? It seems a bit like the pervert of a relative that nobody else wants to talk about is the, having to deal with death in our families. It's one of these taboo subjects. I don't know why. Some people celebrate the thing, and some people are all very, not nice. Well, I'm very pragmatic. It happens to us all, and as long as it happens with dignity, we're the lucky ones, because as so many people meet their demise in such unexpected ways, horrible ways sometimes, even if it is suicide. But if you commit suicide, it's very much against the law. Oh yes, you'll be in such trouble. Naughty you. What are they going to do about it? And this brings me on to this topic, what I want to talk about. There used to be, well, there still is, a saying about if you really want to know who controls this world, figure out those on the world that you cannot criticize. And they're the ones. Okay. That's quite true, quite frankly. But we've taken it to another level, haven't we? We can't criticise anyone, it seems, without the fear of having to give reparations for our crass and horrible little comments. We get sued at a drop of a hat for defamation of character. Oh, he slandered me, I was sick of the whole bloody thing, to be quite frank. But you tell me this then, given that those who control the world are the ones we're not allowed to criticise. Okay, I get it. I do get it. I think that's very true. But we've taken it to another level now, where we're not even allowed to, technically in Great Britain, commit suicide. Well, we're not allowed to, but so many people do, because, well, there's a lot of reasons people commit suicide. Number one is that they're racked with pain every day of their life, and they can't take any more. And they're sick and tired of being sick and tired, and they're sick and tired of being in and out of hospital and living with this pain. The moment they open their eyes, they think, oh, not another day. Can you imagine? So many people are in constant pain, which becomes unbearable, and they're sick and tired of the meds, and they haven't got the money for the meds, so they have to make do without, and they have to endure this pain, which is probably going to get worse and worse, because pain makes them depressed, so they get depressed, and it's a cascade of events. One thing leads to another, doesn't it? And there's often attempted suicide to escape, but how very dare you attempt suicide? They'll take you into A&E, and there's not a do not resuscitate me register unless a doctor signs it and you're on the critical care list. There has to be a judgment in that case in the UK anyway about that. It's not something an individual can say, listen, love, I'm really depressed and I'm planning to top myself, so if I'm halfway there, let me go. You can't do that. You know, you may as well, if you're going to do it, and I'm not suggesting you do, but make sure it's not a vain attempt for attention, which so many attempted suicides are, that people aren't really serious. Well, they're the bad ones. They're the ones who are letting the side down, quite frankly. These are the desperate people in society who are crying out for attention. And they say that, yeah, I mean, babies cry for it and soldiers die for it, and that's attention. And boatloads of it, please. Okay? But attention is not what people are after. People want escape. It's not always about the pain they want to escape, is it? It's not always about the physical pain. It's about the mental torture that goes on in their minds every second of every waking day. You know, they're sick of the pills. They're sick of having no money. They're just sick of breathing in and breathing out, quite frankly. And there's got to be something better than this. You've got to have empathy for people like this. I'm not saying I've never thought about it in my life. A couple of times I've thought about it. Never acted upon it because I've always had the responsibility of having children in that respect. So I've always manned up, you know. But never say never. I don't know what I'm going to do next month, next year, year's time, 2 years' time. I have no idea. But the problem is, it's illegal. And if I commit suicide, if I wish to, there's no insurance. That's it. I've done it. I've been very, very naughty. Yes. But what are they going to do to me? Nothing. What they do to my wife? Well, they won't pay out any insurance policies, will they, for life insurance? No. So all that becomes in their eyes. But who has made it? I'd like to know who makes the rules that you cannot commit suicide if you've had enough. It's your life, isn't it? It's my life, isn't it? It's other people's lives if they want to terminate. It's their life. But if you think you own you, you're in for a shock. Because that you don't own you, it seems, because if you were to own you, you could kill yourself without any repercussions, so long as you don't expect to be paid out for the life insurance. Okay. Well, there's plenty of people top themselves who haven't got life insurance. There's plenty of people who accidentally do it by taking a drug overdose, or an alcohol overdose, or they step in front of a car, oops, by accident, or, you know, there's plenty of people that do. But it is technically, in the eyes of the law, illegal. Well, I want to know who wrote this law. Why is it? You tell me why it is. I'd like to find out the person who decided, in the early days, right, any of you lot try to kill yourself, it's against the law. Well, who owns me? Do I own me? I am free. Shouldn't it, like David Icke said, shouldn't we be on Freedom Road? It's my decision, it's my body, it's my pain I have to endure, it's my illness, it's my pissed off state, and I don't see any future, and I just want to get to the next life in a bit of a hurry because I'm fed up of this bloody one. I'm sick of this body, it's letting me down, I'm sick of the pain, I'm sick of the pharmaceutical, I'm just sick of it all. Let me out. That's what it amounts to, doesn't it? There's often, you see, attempted suicides are often a cry for help. Well, that's fair enough. I can't knock people who do attempted suicides, but some people get it wrong. They actually succeed, perhaps by mistake. That's very sad. These are the attention seeker types that ruin it for the rest of people who want to do a proper job. This isn't a how to commit suicide video, by the way. I'm not recommending it. But I'm saying is this. Why would it be illegal for any human being to terminate, if they wish, their own life? Now, at what stage in history did people say, right, this is the group, this is our population of our country has borders, language and culture. In our culture, we're going to make it illegal that you lot even attempt to kill yourselves, you bastards. Do you know why? Because humans are the shackles and property The moment our birth is registered, we are now officially an asset of the system. We are a tax-paying unit by the church. The church, whether you're baptized or not, okay? If you are a British citizen, you are a tax-paying unit because you're not a straw man anymore. You're a straw man person, girly, when you were born, until your mothers and fathers dobbed you in and rang that bell. Jimmy or Nancy is here. Here she is, newborn baby. Get her on the register and give her a number. You may as well give the kid a barcode on the forehead. And now we're in the system. We get a certificate of birth. Yes. The birth certificate, it's official, stamp. Immediately they take possession of us. And they, you know who they are. Now we are an asset of the crown. And that asset to the average taxpayer unit, is millions of pounds in our lifetime. We are an asset worth millions to the system. And by terminating ourselves, how very dare you, you've done something illegal. Because you've cost us money. They don't give a shit that we've terminated if there was no financial interest in us. Just like running over a rat on the road. The rat's nothing to them. But if the rat was earning the system 6 million every 10 years for the system in tax revenue, they'd be a bit pissed off having just destroyed and run over a rat on the road. And it's the same for us. How very dare you, or your husband or your wife or son or daughter, how dare they, you can see them frothing at the mouth. How very dare they terminate. Did you realise what your brat has done? We were pegging it all out. We were doing forecasts and business forecasts, and that little shite went and topped itself. Now we're going to have to recalculate. Well, that's the sum of it, isn't it? But when in history did this become law, that residents of the world, i.e. Great Britain, that's my little world, become fugitives, criminals, for killing ourselves? Because just because I would, by my suicide, if I were to do suicide, it's of secondary importance, the consequences to the government. Trust me on this. I don't give a rip, because I know for sure for me and my family, there is no consequences. Except the obvious, the domestic ones to sort out the mess and tidy up behind me. Not that I'd be messy about it. Not I'm planning to blow my head off with a shotgun. At least I'd have to decorate. Not an Andy Warhol on this occasion. But no, in all seriousness, and it is a serious topic, I'm trying to sort of gallows humour it really. I see it a ridiculous system where it is illegal for people to commit suicide. Because, there's nothing they can do about it. They can't put the genie back in the bottle. You are gone. On to another dimension. I only hope it's a good one. And I have to then think, well, somewhere, somebody's going to be pissed off that you're a suicide. Especially when you're working value, you're a taxpayer, you're a tax generator. They don't give a shit, you see, quite frankly, whether old people top themselves. They don't. Anyone who's retired and drawing a pension is costing the state money. But the old people have got to that age because they're quite happy with their lives, maybe. But there's plenty of old people who aren't. So why don't they say, at 65 you can self-terminate any time you like? Well, some countries have got that ruling, that if you're retired and you decide you can't take old age, you can terminate, because you're not exactly going to make life insurance claims, are you, when you're in a nursing home? But often you see, sadly, people leave it too late, and then they think, oh, sod it, I'll have to go down the natural way. And the natural way for me, if I were just to carry on and carry on, if my health problems don't kill me before I retire, would be to grow old dribbling quietly with a catheter possibly, staring out the window of a nursing home, looking back in life, but severely pained, missing my family, missing everyone I love. And I don't want to be that. I'm too much of a coward to have to sit and watch the people I love. I don't want to outlive them. I really don't, and it is so sad that many, many parents have to watch the demise of their children, and some parents outlive their whole family. The pain for me would be unbearable. And I've often said, if anything, I'll be brutally blunt with you, if anything happened to my wife and children en masse, I'd be very fast behind them. There'd be no debate, there'd be no discussion, no warning. I would just quietly go home and do it. And I'd make sure it was irreversible. And I'm sure that there isn't a human being alive on this planet, not one, this flat planet by the way, not one, that hasn't thought at some stage in their life, and if you haven't thought about it, eventually you will, unless you've had a very blessed life. You will eventually wonder, is it time to call it a day? What is in front? Is there more in front of you than behind you, or vice versa? And if you've got more behind you, then the prospect of ahead of you isn't looking too hot. I don't think people should be so judgmental on those who commit suicide, because everybody has a reason and it's valid to them. What makes it a little bit difficult and muddies the water for those people is that those who play at it and do repeated suicide attempts, and these are the ones with psychiatric problems who need therapy, these are the ones who want sympathy, they want attention, and they muddy the water, sadly, for those people out there who truly want to go. But unfortunately, somebody discovers them. But the best thing to do would be to write a letter to whoever is going to discover you. Unless, of course, the moment you do the dirty deed, it's instant, which is unlikely unless you blast your head off. Okay. Historically, a lot of people used to stick their head in the gas oven before they put a... And the only difference between those people and the people today that try it is that they put a smell in the natural gas now to make sure you can smell the gas, and it's so bad it makes you vomit if you try to gas yourself, because it's very difficult to gas yourself when you're heaving and trying to throw up, because you just want to reflex the gas out and get to fresh air. It'll stop you doing it. It's very difficult to gas yourself on piped gas into your house, trust me. But in the early days, you didn't know somebody left the gas hob on, did you? You go in, strike up a match to have a fag, and boom, because this is what they used to do. They used to turn all the gas on in the house if they want to blow your house up. You come home after a night out with the lads, have a fag, bang. You know. So this is why they decided to put a smell to natural gas. The smell we smell gas at now in the UK isn't natural at all. It's a man-made smell put into the gas, quite deliberately to stop you killing yourself. And, well, 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover, wasn't that a song by Simon and Garfunkel? Well, it's 50 ways to kill yourself. I'm not going to give you any ways. I've gone through them in my own mind because I'm a prepper. And if my life gets to the stage where, you know, I can't take any more, I will discuss it with my family. I haven't. But if I was going to do that, it wouldn't be a unilateral decision. But I don't want them helping me because they would be arrested for aiding and abetting, killing the old man. But, you know, the worst thing that will happen to them is they'll be interviewed by the police. The police of all people. What's it got to do with the police? There's no crime being committed except that how very dare I, or very dare you, kill yourself. It's utter nonsense, isn't it? Don't you think it's arse about face? At what stage in history did these people decide that they can control us to that level? Well, it's like having a little mouse looking back at an eagle with its claws outstretched just to grab it, just about to, and the little mouse is doing that. Fuck you. It's the last act of defiance, isn't it? And that must be so schadenfreudig. Getting pleasure out of pissing the government off with your last act. Oh, that's got to be a way to go, surely. It beats jumping in front of a train. You know, if I was going to do it, I'd do it in absolute privacy. I wouldn't want an audience. I wouldn't want to be on the news. I just want to be a statistic. Yes, I want to be a loss-making tax unit for the government. Oh yeah, baby. I plan all my funeral ahead of the game. In the event of my death, I would do a will. And nothing wrong with that. In the event of my suicide, this is going to happen. These are the instructions that should be followed. Da 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 da. I'm of sound mind. This is what I choose to do. I'm in a lot of pain. My organs are failing. I'm terminal. I've got cancer. I'm not going to wait for the National Health Service to kill me off or whatever if I had cancer, which I haven't, from my understanding. But if I had, and I was terminal, what's wrong with assisted suicide by the National Health Service? I see nothing wrong with it. After all, chemo is assisted suicide. Radiotherapy is not assisted suicide, but injecting somebody with a liquid version of phosgene gas. Yes, mustard gas. Yes, that's what chemo is, by the way. It kills every known living cell. And they inject you with this if you have cancer, and they piggyback it with radiotherapy. Well, go to the foot of my stairs. Why would you want to give anybody chemotherapy? It kills a cell. Yes, but it kills every other cell in the body as well, the good ones. Talk about throwing the baby out with the bathwater. It's an utter nonsense, isn't it? It's a huge industry, you see. Oh yes, the British cancer organisations and the charities are so wealthy. They've had the cure. They've had the cure since 1927. To know how to get rid of cancers. But it's such a profitable business for them. They don't want to kill the cash cow, do they? They'd rather kill the patients. And you know how much it costs to give people chemo and radiotherapy? And to treat them for cancer patients? An absolute fortune. Did you know there is just more people on the surface of our flat planet now, in aggregate, if you count them all up, than those underground who have been here before us in all of known history. There is more of us above the ground now than has ever been on the world compared to those who are down below. That's a staggering statistic. There's more human beings on the planet today than ever before. And that's quite a stink. But think back 1,000 years ago, how many people were roaming the streets of New York? Well, New York didn't exist. It was woodland, streams, reservations. The same in Britain. You see, we're not that advanced, are we, really? In the grand scale of the Clockwork Mouse, Clockwork Orange more like, we are still rank amateurs. But I think I'm a human being, and I can do, quite frankly, in my opinion, with my body, what the fuck I like. Okay. And if I want to call it a day, I'm an adult and I'm not insane, I can call it a day. And I think the bunch of scribbling Pharisees called lawyers, these bunch of yids, ultimately that's what they amount to. The Shylocks of the world, the bean counters, and everything boils down to pounds, shillings and pence, or cents and dollars, doesn't it? Eh? Well, more people in America die of heart disease than anything else. Cancer and heart disease are the two biggest killers in America. Heart disease because of obesity, of course, which is on the rise. 40%. 40% of those who die of heart attacks are clinically obese. Well, what a coincidence. 40% of the people, as 40% of the American population are clinically obese. I sat in the waiting room the other week, waiting for a standard ECG. And I said, oh yes, I'll have to sit down here now for 10 minutes before the cardiologist arrives to look at my ECG, which I looked at, and I can interpret ECGs. It looked perfectly fine to me. There was no ectopic beats. There was no, you can't tell from my ECG there's anything wrong with my ticker, okay? But there is. But you can't tell from an ECG, so what's the point of having an ECG? It'll show you that you're in heart failure, which I'm not, thank goodness. But hey-ho, I sat there with this in my hand, and I was watching the world go by, and I watched nurse after nurse, doctor after doctor, radiologists, radiographers, all these lab people wearing white coats up and down the corridor. I was there for 40 minutes waiting for this bloody doctor to turn up. Okay. And I was watching the world go by, and I was making a mental note. I was amongst 20 in the waiting room. I thought, who's next? It's not a case of take a ticket. It depends how your notes fall on the doctor's table. So I thought, oh God, I'm going to be here all bloody afternoon waiting for this prat, and it's going to be lasting 5 minutes, 10 minutes with me. That's all you get, 10 minutes. Very busy men, and women. And I was making a mental note of those that walking by, like I was pretending I was on the Champs-Élysées watching the people go by. Well, on the Champs-Élysées, I was watching the girls go by. But in this case, I was watching the men and women go by. And I would estimate that, I'm not kidding you, 70% of healthcare workers that walked on by were obese, bursting out of their bloody uniforms, or clinically obese, in danger of dropping dead. These are people in our healthcare world looking after us sickos who are that far talking about pot calling the kettle black when half the GPs out there in the United Kingdom are actually quite, to be honest with you, they're on the bottle. Most dental surgeons, okay, are so up to their neck in debt by having to get in the mouth more this year than they did last year to make the same money, and there's more of them. Oh, yeah, well, the suicide rate in dentistry is quite phenomenal. I suppose they get depressed, really, with the one-way conversation with their fingers in your mouth. I can speak with authority on the dentist ones because my brother's an ex-dentist. Well, he's still kicking, but he retired. And he'll tell you about the depression amongst dentistry. It's one of these deep, dark secrets. Yeah, they're all on pills. They're all on antidepressants because they're under such massive financial pressure. And more civilians out there who are private individuals that who work and have to pay for their dental treatment are walking around with hardly any teeth in their mouths now because they've made dentistry such an expensive exercise that most people think, fuck it, I've got to pay the gas bill, the electric bill, the mortgage, the council tax, the food, all the other bills that one has to pay. At the end of the month, I haven't got any money to get my teeth done. And I'm walking around like that now. Don't want to smile. And lots of women go, that's very funny, because they don't want to smile. Because their teeth are all bent and black and horrible. Because they can't, no disrespect. I don't knock them, because the first thing to go off anybody's luxury item list if they become skint or hard up is they can't afford to go to the bloody dentist, national health or not. and it's a public disgrace. And they have the temerity to say that they're caring for us by putting sodium fluoride in the water to keep our teeth nice. It's a lot of shit. Because if they wanted to improve the dentistry of a nation, they would ban sugar. Outright. Wouldn't they? They would get rid of fizzy pop with sugar. Well, they have done. But they haven't. You can go to a Tesco's or Morrison's, where I go, and you can look at their bags and bags and bags of sugar. You can pick up cereal. Sugar, sugar, sugar. There's plenty of alternatives to sugar. I'm talking about sugar that is snow white and deadly. I'm not talking about the natural sugars like the glucose and the sucralose and the fruit sugars. I'm talking about the processed and bleached and processed white cane sugar. That is a killer. It's a natural born killer. And look at the rate of diabetes in our country. And they care for us. Yes, they care for us so much that they have to put the food ingredients on our food now, on our boxes and our packets that we go to. It's microscopic, you can barely bloody read it. It is all in code, it's all in G numbers, EE187621. Yeah, what the fuck's that mean? You know, I look for labels all the time on food. I won't buy Chinese food. Never, 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 never will I ever eat a Chinese meal or Chinese takeaway. Never. It is so full of toxins, folks. I'm surprised you don't glow. The Chinese don't. God, I mean, they're only one step away of eating rats and dogs. Well, many of them have done or do. Yeah, local cats go missing. Local Chinese takeaways just opened down the road. First suspects. You're eating your cat. You don't know with these bastards, do you? But no, as Indian takeaways, willing to give it a gamble. Absolutely not. Absolutely. If you want to avoid a killing drug in your food, monosodium glutamate is a killer. It's an absolute killer. But I digress from suicide, but that would be suicide, wouldn't it? Becoming a foodie, because this is the stuff that's just going to make us fatter and fatter and fatter and fatter. It's a long death. It's a slow kill, folks. Because if the government get the timing right, you'll be a huge fatty by the time you're 65. And when you drop dead of a heart attack, you're not going to cost them a penny because you've done your job. That's it, you see. 65 bored and broke. That's what they want, so you can get out of here. Okay? If you really want to piss the government off and you can afford it, get to the age of 75 just to piss them off, because you'll be classed as a useless eater, and they hate useless eaters. Oh yeah, if I was really going to want to get my own back on the governments of this world, I'd become a useless eater and I'd retire at 65 if I made it, and I would relish it had I got my marbles, my health. Hey, Nancy, stand me next to that window. I'll look out there in the dribbling mass with or without a catheter, and I know I'm being paid for by the government, and I'll wring every last drop out of them. Yeah, but I know I've bucked the system in that case. But I don't think I'll get that far. I'll be absolutely amazed, and who knows, I might just get bored before that time. It depends what my loved ones are doing, to be honest with you. Okay. And if it looks like I'm outliving them, I'll just go and join them. I always like to beat them. You know what I mean? It's just like the old man to be first. Well, isn't that nature's way? It should be the oldest goes before the younger ones. But sadly, for many people, it's not the case. What I do know is if I lost any of my family, I'd have to seriously consider rushing off to go and join them. Whether it breaks the little heart of the government or not, frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. I am me, I am born free, and I will be free. Catch you tomorrow. Toodle pip.